Okay, so this is lesson 11.1, which is journal page 248. And we're talking about congruent angles and congruent sides. Congruent angles and congruent sides when they're corresponding angles and sides for congruent figures. So for number one, it says the figures are congruent. So they have to tell us that part, or we would not be able to tell because they didn't give any measurements for everything. We just have to take them at their word. They are congruent. So now name the corresponding angles and the corresponding sides. So angle A corresponds to angle J. So angle A and angle J are corresponding. Angle D and angle M are corresponding. Angle C and angle L. Remember that corresponding means if we were to lay these right over each other, these are the angles that would correspond. That means that they would match up. And then we also have angle B and angle K. Those are the corresponding angles for that first pair of figures. Then it also says corresponding sides. So we have side AB corresponds with side JK. We have side BC, and that corresponds with KL. We have CD, and that corresponds with LM. Now, CD and LM, those are corresponding sides. You know we could also name this DC because we could go the other way. However, if we did name this DC, we would also rename this one ML. See, since we said CD, we have to do corresponding to C is L, corresponding to D is M. So we have to go in that order for those sides. And then finishing up here, we have side DA with side MJ. Those are corresponding. So for number one, those are the corresponding angles and the corresponding sides. Same kind of a problem for number two. So for number two, corresponding angles will go J. Now, this second figure, we're going to have to flip upside down, okay? Or we could say we were reflecting it across the, x-axis. So we're reflecting it horizontally, and then they will match up. So J would actually, or we could do a 180-degree rotation as well. So it depends on how we're going to do that. Let's go with a reflection. So we'll reflect it. So J would correspond with Q. N would correspond with R, angle N and angle R, of course. Angle M and angle S. Angle, what if I'm going around? It would be L, and that would correspond with T. And then finally we have angle K, and that would be angle P. Then doing the sides, I'll just go around and do all the sides for the first figure. So let's see, we have MN, NJ, JK, KL, and then LM. And now we'll do their corresponding sides on the other. Now we could really just go over here and look at these. M corresponds with S, so this would be an S. N corresponds with R. But we're really supposed to look at the figure and say, okay, the side MN and the side SR is how we do that. So SR, and then we go to R side, RQ, then side QP, then side PT, and then finally side TS. So those are our corresponding sides. Oh, there you can see them now for number two. For number three, tell whether the figures are congruent. Explain your reasoning. So for Number 3, those figures are congruent. Yes. So yes. And why? Because corresponding angles and corresponding sides are congruent. Okay, so you can tell the angles are congruent. Now, obviously, you have to reflect either the first or the second one, so they match up. But then you can tell that their angles are congruent because they put the 2 arcs in there or the 1 arc in there. And you can tell the sides are congruent because they have the actual measures there. So we'll just put corresponding angles and sides are congruent. For number 4, that's another story. Although the corresponding angles are all congruent, because all of the angles are 90 degrees, the corresponding sides are not. So remember, to tell whether they're congruent figures, they have to be the same size and shape. So these are not the same size. So no, and why not? Because corresponding sides are not congruent. Okay? And then we get down to number 5. And for number 5, the tops of the desks are identical. Okay, so we know that they are congruent because they're identical. What is the length of NP? Well, we can look at NP, and it doesn't give us any length there. But if we look at its corresponding side on the other figure, EF, it's 3 feet. So for NP, side NP equals 3 feet. And why? Well, because its corresponding side, which would have been EF, is 3 feet. 5B, side AB is congruent to CD, it says. So AB, yep, CD, got it. What is the side length of AB? Well, if AB is the same as CD, we can't tell because they don't tell us either of those. Unless we look at the other figure. CD equals, or corresponds to LM. And LM is 6 feet, which means that CD is 6 feet. And it already told us side AB is congruent to CD. So all of those are 6 feet. So side AB, they told us, congruent to, or is equal to, remember congruent has that little squiggly, side AB is congruent to CD, which is congruent to LM, which equals 6 feet. Therefore, side A is 6 feet, okay? Side AB equals 6 feet. Awesome. Well, I hope that helped. And if you have any questions, make sure you're getting those questions to me so I can answer them, of course. Have an awesome night.